At least, guys, I'm going. We at least have to do the intro. Give them the intro.
Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on, bro?
Going on? Long time no see.
Yeah.
Long time no see. Guys, what's going on? It is Community Beacon. It's Friday. It's right around 10 minutes till. That means that we are on time. And we appreciate you guys checking in each and every Friday at 6:30. I got the co-host. I'm Mike Seville, first off, your real estate guy here in northern Palm Beach County. And on the other side of that screen, we have my co-host with the most, my brother from another mother, the one and only Mr. Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation. What is going on, brother?
Hey, man. How you doing, bro? It's good to be here. It's always good to be with the real estate king. Yes, indeed. I definitely appreciate you all the way around. I'm glad to see a smiling face. Man, I'm glad to be back here on the Community Beacon with you. This is one of the highlights of the week.
Yeah. I this is such a great platform definitely for me, and I'm hoping a lot of people do check in, because I talk to people at the gym. I talk to people around who are like, man, I see what you all are doing and discussing the show. I'm like, well, give us some comments or something. That's the price of admission. The price of admission, if you like what we got going on, is a like, a share, or a comment, and it's all free. It's free. And they say, and I say, is that people sometimes they don't value things if there's not a price on it. So maybe at one point in time, we start putting a price on it, $5, $10, and maybe you might show up or at least watch the replay, and then you'll have something to say because you want to participate. It is what it is. I'm learning that the game is the game, and I'm gonna play the game. And before we start breaking the rules. But up until then, we do appreciate those of you who are checking in and who are constantly enlightening us. It is definitely oxygen, but we do this anyways because we do it anyways. We wanted this platform for you guys and our legacy, for them to actually see exactly what it is that we had going on at the time as we continue building ourselves and growing as men throughout the community. Who's that? A Tino time. Hey, Tino's time. Shouts out to Tino's time. We appreciate you for checking in. What's going on, man? What we got? We got the housekeeping. Let's get into housekeeping before we get into the topic of the day. First thing, guys, what it takes every Monday, 4 to 6 p.m. is when I'm right around the time that I'm dropping it. Check it out, man. Always some interesting things in regards to real estate. I'm giving you some real estate news. I'm giving you some tips and things that I'm using in order to, build my business and really just grow my mindset in life. So check me out on Mondays. What it takes. Same, Mike Seville Real Estate, etc. We're YouTube and we are on Facebook. Of course, on Wednesdays we have the brother with a great show. And it starts with who, brother?
It starts with me. That's where it's all at, y'all. Definitely appreciate y'all coming out and being a participant and showing up for It Starts With Me. Definitely thanking everybody for all of the views and the comments that we've been getting on It Starts With Me. Y'all, when you get on there, let me know how much you like the interchanges, the editing of the show. I'm really interested to get some feedback from you all. I definitely see that the viewership has gone up, and I appreciate all of that. So remember, check us out on Tenacity Foundation YouTube, and see what we have going on Wednesdays. Appreciate you.
Shouts out to that, man, and definitely reach out to the Tenacity Foundation. You're doing a lot of great things in the community. You had a couple of different events over at Barracuda Bay over there in Revere Beach. Also, you did it, which was cool. It was Community Speaks. It was
Communicate now. That's
communicate now, right? So you all got to check out the Tenacity Foundation. Is from here all the way to Belle Glade. So they're serving throughout, minimum throughout Palm Beach County. Lots of lots of information. I happened to attend an event, maybe one event, yeah. And
you were a speaker. You did great.
Yeah, so it was an awesome event. So guys, check out the Tenacity online at the YouTube with It Starts With Me, and just YouTube channel in general, also on Instagram. And then of course, if you're in Palm Beach County, reach out to Joel Simmons. I'm sure the email address is somewhere in the show notes. So check out them, reach out to Joel in regards to the Tenacity Foundation. And of course, on Fridays, we culminate our show with a community beacon, which is every Friday at just around 6:30. It'll be 6:30 in 5 minutes, but we're here. And last but not least, definitely not least. Now, this threw me off because Beethoven's always throwing stuff up online. We got the male perspective. And one day I just happened to log on the Instagram. And of course, I saw my face talking about whatever I was talking about at the time on the male perspective. I believe he dropped another episode. So there's 2 episodes on that YouTube channel. Some interesting perspectives. Someone just caught me at the gym today, actually, and said, man, you come from a different perspective, because we have all different kinds of views on there. And I said, it's important that we widen our scope. You know what I mean? Like either way, I try to be empathetic and see a lot of other people's viewpoints, and be open to it, just to widen my scope, because I don't know what I don't know. But there's, coming from that place, I've also experienced quite a bit. Lots of emotions. I'm up here every Monday, and I'm up here every Friday. And this is why we're going to get into the topic we're getting into now, is that in the midst of it all, you have to show up. In the midst of it all, you have to show up. And I wanted to hurry up and start this show because the brother and I were discussing some things prior to getting on. We always get into these deep conversations. We're like, roll the tape in regards to relationships, marriages, whether they're boyfriend and girlfriend, anything that has, you got some type of commitments. We were touching upon because things are happening. I got a saying that, if nothing's going on in your life, keep on living. and something is going to happen. And I take this story here where it was one time I was driving to a photo shoot for a house in Delray, or it was a condo. I can never forget. And it was early in the morning because the photographer wanted to get there earlier. The sun is out, you take better photos, you get better pictures that way. So I had to open up the door for him. So I think it was around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. It might have been a Sunday morning, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been a Sunday morning, and I was on I-95 riding up to Delray Beach from West Palm Beach, from the 45th Street exit. Nobody was on the road. It was clear as blue skies driving down I-95. And I'm driving and listening to the radio and driving. And, sometimes you can kind of take your eyes off of the road because you're like, well, this is going on, so maybe I could fool around with here. And, you kind of got to multitask, but something told me to keep your eyes on the road. Just get to your destination, and then whatever you have to do, you can do it there. You're not in a rush. And I promise you, brother, I'm driving on I-95, And out of nowhere, there's no cars around, nothing's around. In my lane, on this at the time, I think it was 3 or 4 lanes. This was 4 lanes. In my lane, as crossing my lane is a chair.
What?
A chair, like an office chair with wheels, is just rolling across 95. There's no cars anywhere, but there's a chair rolling across 95 to where I had to maneuver to get out of the way as the chair rolled to the side of the, kept on rolling to the side of 95. And I've always used that analogy when I say, if you keep living, you're good. Something's gonna happen. Even with clear, everything seems like it's on the up and up. Your money's right. This is coming in. This is happening. You got clear ways, and you just keep going. And out of nowhere, you go. There might be a monkey wrench. In this case, for me, it was a chair that could cause damage, or that definitely gets you out of your. You definitely got me out of my lane. You got to maneuver. So if you keep on living, the challenges are going to keep on coming up. This is just one of the facts of life. And what I found is that, we all want to be autonomous. We all want to be independent in our own way, whatever it is. Even if you work for someone, you kind of want to be autonomous. You want to be you want to be trusted to be able to do your job and be able to do it your way and to the best of your ability. However, I think what happens is that we kind of we mix up autonomy with control. We end up trying to control the position. This is where you start to bump heads with your bosses, because I think especially if you got a decent boss, any good boss doesn't mind you being autonomous, working within the system. It's when you start to try to take control of the system is when your boss has to come back and let you know, if you have a boss, what's going on. This is life. And I think this happens in relationships. I think in every relationship, people want to be somewhat autonomous within the system. They want to, first off, people want to feel like they contribute. People want to feel as if they have their way. Like, it's not just, you're not stuck in the thought process of my way or the highway. That's not what a relationship is about. That's not what leadership is about. It's not my way or the highway. However, some people want to feel as if they have that sense of autonomy. But when you mix up that sense of autonomy and you start to have control, and that could be from you being a leader as well, where you start to control as opposed to giving whoever you're leading a sense of autonomy, you start to see some pushback. So we have to be ever cognizant of this control thing versus being given someone autonomy or having autonomy. It's one thing to be independent, and I also want to go into we can go into independence. I'm not going to go in there now, but I got my thoughts on the independence thing too, that I had a thought process of this week. But I know, brother, you were talking, we kind of were getting into relationships and in the midst of it and attempting to things. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Brother, I feel like I need to jump in where you left it.
Yeah, that's fine.
What I mean? Because like this autonomy, and I think that it'll bridge. I think that we'll end up bridging that conversation at some point in time. It'll lead us into that segue, because this is powerful. Autonomy, the freedom from external control or influence, independence, and then control, the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. And I think that this is really, really, this is a powerful conversation and very impactful. And it means something to me, just like, being in the midst of it, because, a few years back, I had this great transformation. And I feel like all the while, God was like preparing me for this great transformation. But I didn't know it was going to happen like that, or that it was going to happen at the time that it did happen. It just did. It was my chair in the middle of the road, it just came out of nowhere, and there was nothing that I could do about it. It got right in front of me, and I had to change course from the way I was driving. It didn't mean that it didn't mean I went backwards. I didn't go sideways. I just had to make an adjustment in order to keep moving forward. And that adjustment was alarming. because
It's alarming. What is a chair? That's the chaos. That's the chaos. What is a
right.
chair? If it was a car that came in the middle of the highway, your mind could make the connection. If it was a car, if it was a person, your mind could make the connection. What's going on? It's a person. I mean, it still would be jarring. But because it was a chair, it was like, wait a minute. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, that's. I mean, this is what they call left field, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
out of left field. It's like I never knew it was coming, and so that's how that's kind of like my segue right there. It's just this idea about having autonomy, that is freedom. Autonomy is freedom from control or influence. It's like independence. And so for me, what ended up happening when the chair of my life rolled in is that I realized that I did not have control over forces outside of me. So this was very powerful to me because it's like I don't even know that I'm attempting to control my environment and things that I have no power over. I don't realize it. I know what influence does, and I want to use my influence for good. But then all of a sudden, the chair of my life rolls through and it's like, hey, listen, you ain't got control here. You just driving. That's what you do. You got your vehicle. You don't have control over the rest of this stuff. You don't have control over your environment. You don't have control over anything else. You're driving your own self. And so I think that's a powerful statement, man. I really do, because we need to have independence as a people. And if we want independence as a people, then is it too crazy to think that other people would want independence also? You know what I mean? Like, I think so. What's up, King Yada? Definitely good to see you. Yeah, I love that. I always love when she pops up.
Yeah, yeah. Shouts out to Kenyatta.
Yeah, King Yada, shout out. So it's like we need to be able to direct influence over our own lives, and then let me say it like this, bro, just to like dig right on into in the midst of it, what we were talking about is how sometimes people, they want to do what they want to do, and what they want to do has an effect on us.
Right.
And that's the thing, that's the chair in your pathway. That's the chair that comes out in your pathway, and it alters what you're going to do, because that chair has power to move itself. And when it crosses your path, you have to make a move. Either that or you just got to run right into it. And there's going to be collateral damage if you choose that. But it's still your choice.
It's still your choice.
It's still your choice. And so in the midst of it all, it's like, these are the things that we have to do. Like, there was choices that you had, Mike, right? You could have moved out of the way of the chair. Mm-hmm. You could have ran into the chair. You could have stopped. And just grab the chair, threw it in the back of your vehicle and say, I'm going to carry that chair with me. You could have thrown it over on the side of the road so that the wheels were up and maybe it wouldn't roll again. There's all these different choices. You made one choice. And so when it comes down to relationships, it's the exact same thing. You get somebody else that rolls out into your life and they're bringing whatever baggage they have with them. You got a choice. You can run straight into them and deal with that baggage head on. And and the collateral damage that comes from running directly into them, that's your choice. Or you can just divert and go around them. And you can leave them behind you. But now you're no longer with them. Now they're a thing of the past. Or you can pull over onto the side and you could spend your time, your efforts, attempting to help them to the point where they get into your vehicle with you. They agree with you. And now they're rolling down the road along with you. Or you can get out on the side and just like usher them into the safety of the arms of somebody else and leave them in the care of someone else and keep it moving. And I'm sure that there's some other things as far as analogies will go. But the bottom line is that's what true autonomy is. It's like realizing I have the power to make any one of those decisions. And any one of those decisions, whether it's right or wrong, it's mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to live with that. And the difference between the chair and the individual is where we go from here. What you got to say?
Yeah, powerful, powerful, brother. That's the thought process of it, and allowing, we're talking about an individual now. We're gonna move from the chair analogy, and allowing them to have that sense of autonomy as well. So it's an ask: Do you want to get into the truck? If that's what we decide to do? I would also advise us to, if we have the tools to take on this obstacle or make this adjustment. A lot of us aren't.
I want to interject something right there.
Okay.
I want to interject something right there. This is something that I've learned, and it's been developing in me more and more in this pathway that I'm on. Many times we don't have the tools. Like, we don't have the tools. And sometimes we wish that we had the tools, but we don't have them. But nonetheless, and I'll equate this to business. Like, if you're in business, you say, well, I don't know how to do something. And so somebody says, hey, Mike, I want you to come out and I want you to do, I was going to say a podcast, but obviously you know how to do that. And I say speech, but you know how to do that. I want you to come out and I want you to host this gala. And you're like, I ain't never hosted a gala before in my life. No, I'm okay. I'm good. I don't want to embarrass myself because I don't have the tools. Or you say, sure, I'll figure it out. And every single step, I'm researching, I'm calling people. Hey, Joe, you ever hosted something? Tell me what you do. Hey, B, you ever host something? Tell me what you do. Hey, let me turn on the TV set and let me look to see what these other guys have done when they hosted. And then we just get out there. Some people call it fake it till they make it. But really, it's just like, be yourself. Do the best that you can, because there's a good opportunity that what you do have, the chair would not have rolled in front of you. I know I went back to that same analogy. The chair would not have rolled in front of you if you didn't have, the ability to maneuver around it. So maybe you do have it and you just have never used it. You never used it. You didn't recognize what was inside of you. And it's about trusting the process of things. It's like, this thing came into my life for a reason or for a season. Either which way, I got to deal with it the best way I can. So I just want to interject that.
But that's a great point. I want us to be aware of the. I know I'm getting feedback. Do you hear it?
No, I don't hear it.
I hear it a little bit. Okay, it sounds it sounds better now. I just want you to be aware of it. Right. You need to be aware that there, especially specifically if there's a challenge or something that you have the tools, and also be able to have the resources, because what you named were resources. Hey, Joe, how do you host? Have you ever hosted a gala? Do you know anyone who's hosted a gala? So now we're getting into the point of, don't be scared to go and find these resources and utilize your resources. I just had a conversation with a person I was prospecting with recently. I said, in the midst of me doing all this sales stuff and doing a lot of prospecting and really, focusing, narrowing my scope and focusing on sales, I neglected a lot of the resources and networking that I have and the people around me that I've had. And I said, I need to do that because that's my biggest strength. So you need to be aware of, can you handle it? I'm sure we have everything that we need, right? That's the great thing about what was given to us. Is that everything that we need is inside of us, whether we want to choose, and you can choose to believe that or not. However, to be able to access these different resources is paramount to go into the next step. Now, I'm going to jump straight into relationships because we spoke about the independence and that. So I had a thought process. I was thinking about the distinction, and for so long in my life, I was, and I think it's really in the culture, but I'm definitely I was this person, was where I was really, I really took in as my identity being this independent person. Oh, I'm independent. I don't need anybody. I can do it on my own. I have the work ethic to do it. I can make things happen, etc. I can make it happen. And I'm telling you, I'm one of those people that have a lot of resources around me, but I can do it on my own. Not, I'm not gonna ask for help. I'm gonna figure it out, etc., etc. And then I said, okay, so what's the opposite? This week I was just thinking about it. So what's the opposite of independence? I was like, okay, so on the other side of that spectrum would be codependent. That's someone who's needy and who's clingy and who's, they can't get along without someone. They need that person. They every turn. Oh, should I go left? Should I go right? I need, you need to be involved with that person. So I said, okay, well, codependent is on one end of the spectrum. Independence on the other end of the spectrum. And to me, now that I'm thinking about it, I said, neither of those are a really strong position to be in. Because that independent position, I personally don't believe we're meant to be here by ourselves. I personally don't believe we're meant to. Otherwise, nobody would be here, right? Or we would all go into the woods and just say, I need that. I'm alone time or go on an island. And then on the codependent, like nobody wants that needy person. So I said, the actual strength of it is on this spectrum is in the middle, and that's the interdependence. That's the ability to be independent and be able to rely on people at the same time. That's the ability to say, you know what, I can't do it by myself. I'm willing to bring on a partner or partners and make this thing stronger than it is. And we have an issue within the community where people are either independent or they're codependent. And we don't have that interdependence. And the thing with the interdependence is that we all know that the unity is what needs to happen in order for you to strengthen it, right? Like the unity is that's what makes your fist so powerful, because all your fingers by themselves, like you're in trouble. You might be able to poke an eye out, right? But you're more likely to hurt yourself. But when you close it together and get this unity and get this independence, this becomes very strong. And what I've realized that we talk a lot about this. I'm a strong, independent person, or I can get it done. I can make it happen. And I'll tell you, it hits so close to home because, and I'm putting us all out there, brother. It's me, you, and I'm thinking Beethoven, I'm thinking Lou, and we all got our things going on at the same time. 4 separate things. And we know that when God came together, it was a whole different thing. We turned something from this individuality, powerful men. I'm telling you, you don't want to mess with. I don't think anybody really wants to. You can tell our influence when we walk in the room individually. Mike is there. Beethoven is there. Joel is there. Lou is there. Very strong, very smart. We can do it on our own. But when you bring it all together and have that interdependence, and we had a taste of that. We had where we brought people up to the next level. People that couldn't remember certain lines, and by the end of it, you remembered probably could have wrote a book on it. You know what I mean? We came together, we upheld each other, and we strengthened each other, and we made it even more powerful. Not only did we make ourselves more powerful, we made our families more powerful. Because when all 4 of us got together and all 4 families got together, it's a whole powerful situation. Now you got wives and girlfriends and family members and kids, and everyone's together. And that's a powerful thing, not only to experience, but to witness and to see. Like, imagine people seeing that kind of unity so I was like, I said, this is a powerful thought process. And even within ourselves. So what makes us, if we're valuing these different things in the midst of it all, because that's what happens is that we get in the midst of it and we kind of go our own separate ways because we feel as if, and that's the control part, this independence this control, we try to control it. The independence of it is like, well, I can move fast if I do it by myself, or I can just do it by myself. I can't even talk to codependence because none of us was on the codependent side, but this, codependence does happen within the community. But when you get to that interdependent, giving each person the autonomy, because I was a leader in our class, but any one of us could have claimed that. You could have anyone could have came to any of our groups and probably wouldn't have known who was the leader, right? In regards to, we just had, it was a title, and of course it was structured a certain way, but for the most part it was just like, if Mike ain't here, it's still gonna happen because we have the wherewithal to make it happen. And I'm not calling in controlling. Okay, well, did this happen? Was this? No, if I called, it was for support or concern. If I was not there, and likewise for everybody else, because we came that way. So I just think that and I'm gonna let you talk on it, that concept, and that, I think, sometimes I just process as I talk. Shouts out to Kenyatta. I know I didn't read what she said. I'll let the brother get into it. She said, being intentional about relationships is important. Knowing when to lean in and lean out. Absolutely. When needed. And then I hear partnership. There's nothing like an interdependent partnership. Go ahead, brother.
That's exactly where I wanted to jump in at, man. It was like that partnership. Kenyatta, once again, she's hitting the nail on the head, because, man, partnership, the scriptures even teach us in Amos 3:7, how shall two walk together except they agree, and when it comes down to relationships, even the first marriage, according to the Bible, the Holy Bible, it talks about Adam saw Eve, and he said, this is the reason why man will leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife, and that the two will be one. And it's like, any relationship is like that. That's how a relationship must be, and in the midst of it, you're going to have struggle, you're going to have strife, you're going to have difficulties, but we have to be independent in the sense that we can handle our own, but we have to be interdependent in the sense that we can find an agreement with one another so that we can stay on the same page. Because a lot of times that's all it is, man. It ain't nothing else. It's the simple fact that if it's a relationship between two, one person has their own thought process, and that's the only process that they are utilizing to come up with a conclusion or a solution. They're not considering the other process. I love who's the author of that book that you and I read with the guy, Never Split the Difference. Yeah. So in the book Never Split the Difference, I love this one part where he talks about how he doesn't agree that you should compromise. And compromising was a big thing for me. It's one of my 4 C's, if you all remember from last season. It's one of my 4 C's. But when this man explained not to compromise, the way he explained it, I said, I'm down with that. I can agree to that. Because the way that he opened the door up to this was like, listen, when you compromise, that means one person loses and the other person wins. But we are searching for a win-win scenario. How do we make them both happen? Now, I know that there are going to be certain situations where if I need to do something right now, this very moment, and you need to do something right now, this very moment, that at that point in time, this can become a little more difficult, a little more edgy, right? And so there may need to be some compromise at that point in time. But the whole point that he gave, like an example of, if Mike wants to eat chicken tonight, and we're going to eat chicken and everybody's out there, and Joel wants to eat fish tonight, the compromise may be, well, Joel had fish yesterday, so we're going to get the boys chicken tonight because Joel can't have fish every night. Or it may be, we won't have fish tonight because we always have chicken. But for both of us, but we both can actually walk together if we just go get chicken and fish and call it a day. And the thing is like, when it comes down to that interdependence, and I love what Kenyatta is writing right here too, that because this is what I'm talking about. When I understand that Mike doesn't want fish and Mike understands that I don't want chicken, then we just pool our money together. And we say, hey, listen, bro, you ain't got to go without. I got you. I got you. Here is one of the things that happens inside of relationships, especially husband and wife, or these relationships where you're at home and you're sitting there and sometimes we feel as if we've given in so much of our personal life to the other individual that there comes a stopping point. It's like, no, you can't have your way anymore. You always get your way. You always have your way. And we've lost, like Kenyatta would, like she kind of is alluding to, we've lost the value system, the desire to bring the other person up. And Mike, I'll tell you what, man, I have found this so much more in these like husband wife type relationship, boyfriend girlfriend, all these types of loving relationships, more than in friendships. Because it seems like when you're in a friendship, it's like, I don't care, that's my boy, I don't care, I'm going to be there for him. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be there for him. But sometimes we get so offended. We got these walls that are built up, and we feel as if somebody else is getting away with murder. How can they dare get away with this mess? They got away with that last time. I'm always the one who has to deal with this junk. They leave this out. They don't do that. And we got all these different things that we are holding them accountable for. And because of that, we don't even want to hear what they have to say. We've already given them major X before they open their mouth. What else you say? Knowing a person's form and values at the very beginning will reduce conflict and disagreement. This is so true. And it's not just knowing them from the very beginning. It's learning them as they grow, right? Because people change. You know, they don't stay the same. Everybody changes. Everybody has new experiences, and they change into somebody different. And if we are not staying in communication and learning each other, then we are going to miss the boat. That person had changed. We thought we was married to so-and-so, and we realized we married to so-and-so. Oh, man. Where'd they come from?
I'm going to tell you what, and this is where I guess I'm going to come from a different perspective, is that people's personalities and the way they handle things have been already established for the most part. This is science. This is going back into behavioral studies by the time that they're 9 years old. By the time that you're 9, and this is just the things that you're cognizant of between the ages of 6 and 9 is what you're cognizant of happening. Now, there's a list of things that possibly happen between the ages of 0 and 5 that happen that you don't even know that happened. Someone jumped and scared you when they had a red hat. And now you don't know why you act a certain kind of way and have these different fears around red hats. And this happened to you when you were 3. Or a father or mother figure yelled at you a certain kind of way when you were 2 or 3 because they were scared for your safety, but then they told you to freeze. And now all of a sudden you find yourself 35, 40, 50, whatever it is, freezing up at certain situations because we tend to take those rules that we build, we make from 0 to 9, and we take that up into our adulthood. So what I've found is that a lot of people, and here's the issue, is that a lot of people don't know their values. They don't know their values. They spew out values from other people because it sounds like it's good. You really have to pay attention to a person's behavior because a person's behavior is really going to tell you their values. And you want to see their behavior when they're under pressure. And sometimes by the time you figure you get to a point where they are under pressure, they already, that's when you say, I'm married to so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like now it's like, I didn't know I took it to so-and-so because up until that point, there was no friction. Like friction and obstacles and challenges. That's where the character is. That's where you find the character and you see whether someone's because I've seen people get into a situation and I'll even do it. Matter of fact, forget people, I'll talk about myself. I'll get into a certain situation where I know a certain Mike takes over. This rigid and this disciplined Mike takes over. Now, this rigid and disciplined Mike, you want to take him to war. Because when something is going on, he's falling back into training. Boom, get down, or whatever it is. The ruler, there's something called a rule of 7. If you all haven't heard, it was an awesome, interesting concept of where the Vietnam, when they were in the jungle, the Vietnam would ambush armed people from the army, right, from the States when we were over there, and they would ambush us. And by the time when they ambushed us, they would be within 7 feet. And the only reaction you can have by the time to react, because they were doing it with knives, people fell down to their training or what they were inherently. And so some people would take a maternal instinct and would tell people to cover, like, oh, everybody need to, be careful. Some people would get into a point where they would just would flee. They'd run. They were in trouble. The people who tended to survive those ambushes were the ones who had the paternal instinct, and they actually turned and went towards the danger. They ended up making it out almost like 90-something% of the time. The people who had the maternal instinct that was telling people to get down or cover or watch out, they got in trouble. And people who flee, they also got in trouble. So Michael is the paternal. Michael is turning, he's going towards it, because I get very rigid, etc. That same thing may not necessarily work in a relationship. When I get into a certain thing and this robotic, rigid, disciplined, willful Mike takes over, because that person is not empathetic. That person is not compassionate. That person is just very black and white. But that's mostly going to come out when there's some type of pressure happening, stress, something stressful occurs that reminds me of something that whatever is that is when I developed that. And that, like I said, that happened early on in childhood. So what happens is that we need to do what we have to do is, and this is just you yourself, is we need to start doing our own values elicitations. We need to actually figure out what it is that we value, because sometimes we don't even know where we got our values from. We may have adopted our values from the people around us. Though we may have got our values from the people who are popular. That seems to be happening a lot these days. And then what happens is that we tend to be in an unalignment and not in congruence with what it is that we want, and then we're unhappy. And then we blame this unhappiness if we're in a partnership on our mate, or we blame this unhappiness on our job, when really we're just really incongruent with ourselves. And we're attempting to follow certain models that don't align with our natural and core values. We need to figure out our core values. Now, here's a great thing about you learning your own core values. You start to identify other people's core values, even if they don't know it. Right now, someone can come to me and tell me, "Oh, this is what I believe in, and this is the," and then I can just tell. I can say, "Okay, no, this is not true." It actually comes down to, it is almost in sales is very similar. You have to uncover the real objection. It's almost never price. It's not price. Mostly when price is involved, they just don't believe that you have the value for the price. Because if you had the value, they would find the money. People will find the money if you show them the value. But if they don't, so you need to ask that question. It's oftentimes it's not, oh, I need time to think about it. Nobody needs time. People need more information. So you haven't provided them with enough information to make a decision. Remember, in sales, we just want to get people to make a decision. And once again, this carries over into normal relationships. You may need to, and using Chris Voss, that's why that never split the difference, using tactical empathy, asking the correct questions to dig deeper, mirroring your counterpart, etc., to actually get to what it is they really are. We are going on dates, which I don't even believe work. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think dating works. I think it's a passe thing. I think that's a conversation for a whole other show. But you're going on dates, showing up as your best self, this perfect person. This is who I am. This is what it, and if you're beautiful or something, someone can buy into that. And how long can you keep it up for? You might be able to keep it up for, like, who knows? So this is why when you're going out on these interviews, you need to ask the pertinent questions. You need to do your due diligence to find out what a person's true core is. Well, how do you do that with a friend? It's a tough situation. I know I spoke a lot, brother. What you think? Hold on, let me get Kenyatta. She said the power of understanding your personality style and which style needs to show up and show out when needed. Huh. I'd have to think about that, Kenyatta. I'm a big proponent of authenticity, but I kind of understand what you mean.
Yeah, I think depending on where you are, I suppose. But I'm with you on that too, especially after you read it out loud. I was thinking about it more. But I like what you just said too. When you were talking about with a friend and being able to discover those things. Here's some crazy stuff. My wife would always, I would get off I'd go play basketball and she'd sit over there in the car or on a bench or something. She'd just be watching, right? She'd be hanging out, just watching. And when I come off the court, I'm like, this dude right here, he just did such and such, he got a wife, whatever it was. And she'd be like, what? I said, yeah, you know. I was like, can you believe that? And she was like, what? And she said, I've been sitting here watching you the whole time. How'd you figure that up? I said, he told me. She said, when did y'all talk? When did y'all talk? I saw y'all playing basketball, And so like that's the deal right there, and it's that real, and like you said, authenticity, but it's like that communication. It's like discovering who is the person on the other side, and it's not really about probing questions, I don't believe, but going back to what Kenyatta was saying a while ago, when she said knowing a person's form or values at the very beginning will reduce conflict and disagreement. Yeah. I would have to say knowing your own values. I think that's where it is at. Because many times that's it, huh?
That's you got to, if you can understand where your value, it's almost like the real recognized real. That's yeah. I'm going to use that saying, because if you are real with yourself, like people give it away. People aren't as good of actors as they think they are. This is one of my frustrating things, brother. We have 4 styles, one dominant, one that shows that matters. Some of that dominant style isn't appropriate for the content. Intentionally choosing the style that's needed is powerful. There's I've followed those there's a style that okay.
I'm gonna say something, man. I'm a high proponent of authenticity. Like I've worked with so many different people. I work with thousands of people, in the course of my time. I've worked with thousands of people, presented before thousands of people, been on panels and on boards, and then congregations, and then different types of settings where I've had to make major decisions for non-for-profits and for other types of entities. And my whole point is just that at the end of the day, I found that the greatest me is the authentic one. And so what I'm getting at is that there's what is it, 7-8 billion people in the world. You know what? If I show up as me and the people on the other side of the room don't like me, I'm in the wrong crowd. I'm okay with that. Right. I'm okay with, or I'm in the right crowd and they just don't know it yet. So let me talk some more. Let me keep on talking, because maybe what it is that they haven't been exposed to the ideology or the philosophy that I bring. They haven't been exposed to it, because too many times people are showing up with the face that will warrant people to come closer. They are drawing them in by this mass type of system or this mass type of society, and they are grooming and growing a lot of friendships based on personality traits that are fleeting. But if we base everything off of the who I am, this is the real me showing up every single time This is what you're going to get when I'm out there on the street. This is what you're going to get when I'm in the podcast. This is what you're going to get when I'm on the rostrum and I'm speaking. I'm going to tell you something. When I met my real me, my word, when I began to preach, it became much more powerful. I did not realize that when you're preaching for the Lord, you have to show up more as yourself than ever before, because I've always heard, sometimes you'll hear like people, and they'll preach what that preachers preach,
Yeah.
and as you're growing up, you're trying to emulate someone. That's what we do as young men. We try to emulate somebody who's gone on before us, I think Kenyatta might have said something else, but in the end, what I learned is, no, I'm just going to be me, and you just got to accept me or you don't. And what I found is that when the real me showed up, more people accepted that. You said real recognizes real. So now when we get into this conversation of this value system, it's like, because I show up as the real me, my values are on the table.
Yeah.
They're on the table. There's nothing hidden about my values. Do I love the Lord? Yes. Do I like to read? Yes. Do I believe in my success story? Yes. Am I ambitious? Yes. Am I a go-getter? Yes. And do I get to the point where I get upset? I get frustrated and I shut down and I don't want to talk to nobody? Yes. All of that's me. Which part of me do you want? Because I got a whole lot more. But I'm not going to hide it because you are you. I won't. And so even when I'm in sales, I have learned that I much rather sell and bring my services to the forefront through the authentic me than I would through the version of me that looks like the other guy that I was studying, because I can't keep up that facade. I don't know.
I can't. You can't. You can. Well, once again, it's not the alignment and the congruency of it. This is when the willpower and the discipline comes into play. And willpower and discipline, you get exhausted. I'm trying to tell you, like, you can go for 2-3 months tough, like that. I gotta hammer it. This is what it looks like. And I always hated the salesman's voice with that raspy car salesman. I can't stand any of the speakers who talk and have that raspy voice. I don't like it. That's not what it is. And I think within our community, this is where we have the talking of what's the phrase that they use when you something called code switching. They talk about code switching, etc. Code switching gets exhausting when you have to be something that you're not. So I think it's very important that you find it was. And then I wanted to speak to the 4 styles. Yes, there's 4 styles, and I'm assuming Kenyatta's talking about the drivers, the expressives, the amiables, and the analyticals. I think it's good for you to identify who's across from you. So if Joel is expressive, then I know exactly, how I need to speak to Joel. Joel wants to talk, and I need to allow him to talk and express himself. And he's going to talk about all these wonderful things and et cetera, et cetera. And I need to, as a person who's attempting to exert some type of influence or at least transfer this energy that I have, that's what is the transference of energy, then I need to know who I'm dealing with. If it's a driver, I know I need to get straight to the point. He doesn't want to sit here and have that conversation. Amiables are more concerned about being friendly. 60% of the people are amiables. So yeah, I want to make sure that I allow them. This is the autonomy part of it. I allow them the autonomy. And then if I have an analytical, I need to make sure these numbers are on point. They need to know it down to the square. In real estate, they want to know down to the square footage, what they getting per square foot. They're going to let me know exactly how much they spent on the property, how much are the taxes on the new property. What, they want to know what their mortgage is going to look like. They want all this information, whereas some other people just want to, like a driver just wants to get it done. So I want to identify them. Now, who I am, I tend to be a driver. I know I think it's 6 to 8% of the population are drivers. So I need to know fully who I am in order to say, okay, I need to be empathetic of the person who's in front of me. I need to see their point of view, right? I think we need to kind of be careful. We need, careful on what we identify as our self-concepts, because I used to identify as an introvert and extrovert, etc. And I noticed that there's times when I can come, be careful and fully identify what it is that you think that you are. But I think it's awesome. What did she put? Not putting myself or anyone else in the box of I'm an introvert or extrovert, but just being aware of I am. Yeah, we just got to be aware of who we are and figure out these core values. Because I'm telling you, once you start to understand your core values, and then you could speak, because a lot of the reasons why we're not reaching the heights that we want to reach is because of this resistance. The resistance is coming because we're not aligning. So if Joel just told you that he loves that God, he loves God, but then there's an opportunity to do something that goes against that, and let's just say he just, for the sake of it, I just need to get this money, I need to go do it, right? I'm just using you as an example, brother. I know your integrity.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, speak, man.
He's not gonna be as successful as he could be selling something, or at least fulfilled. Matter of fact, he might sell 1 million of these widgets and make $2 million, but he's going to get to that $2 million point and be empty and be confused and be upset and not even knowing why. I got the money, I got the car, I got the things. It happens all the time. Well, what is it? And steadily chasing down this way. But if you're not in alignment and congruent with what your core values are, it's like you're just going in a circle. And the resistance. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I want to jump in there. This is what I found has been like some of the greatest faults inside of relationships, is that people don't know who they are. They're just not being authentic. We come out of this, we come, young people especially, for me, I was like 18 years old when I got married. I don't even know who I am, much less who I am with the wife. I don't know who I am. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there who's 18 and they know exactly who they are. When they got married, they were good. But I'm going to tell you something. I didn't know who I was. And after a few years, I was a totally different person. 180 degrees. And then a few more years after that, I was still yet a different person. And my wife, she sufferingly went through all of those different changes of me, And there was many times where, see, number one, the way I was is I still believe that the woman need to do this, the woman need to do that, the woman need to do this, because I was groomed up underneath one woman, So I was okay with her doing that. Then all of a sudden I decided, oh man, I got a baby. I need to take care of my family. I need to be more masculine. That's a whole nother conversation. I need to be more masculine. I need to prove that I'm the man of the house. So, hey, baby, no, we ain't going to do that. No, we ain't doing it, without even thought, because I just want to stick my chest out. I want to peacock. I want to make sure everybody knows I'm the man of the house. Anything that happens, it comes through me. Well, my wife had to adjust to that. She had to adjust to that. And that wasn't really truly me. Now we are at this stage in our life where my wife is just blossoming into this beautiful, beautiful human being. Absolutely gorgeous. I told her the other day, I said, I'm falling in love all over again because she is just blossoming. And the thing is like, I feel like when this last episode of freedom hit me a few years back, like I became this new person. And I'm watching my wife, and there's some things that I do not like about this person she's becoming. But one thing I know for sure is that I love her exercising her independence, her freedom. And the only thing that I do is I'm nurturing who she's becoming. I love seeing her become it. I love experiencing it. I thank God for it. I was praying to God this morning. I was like, thank you, Lord, for what is going on inside of her, And like I said, there's a couple things that I was like, boy, that would be a pet peeve of mine. But now when I look at it, I'm like, she is becoming something. I don't even know what she's going to be. I have no idea, because she's becoming this beautiful creature that I have not seen before. And so it has attracted me so much more, especially because I know the process of coming out of the cocoon. I understand that. I know it. She's been packed in that cocoon, and now she's coming out, and she's going to be this butterfly, and I don't know what the colors of her wings are going to be. So for me, it's all about support, nurture, and then continuing to allow her to see me as not somebody who wants to control or put a cap on her. Like, yeah, you can only operate in these type of zones. Go ahead and be free, just as long as you don't go beyond this point and above this point, and don't go outside of these points. But instead, it's like, no, you just got to be you. I got to be me, and I got to deal with that. You got to deal with this. But these are, and just offering her my value points and learning her value points and seeing where those things have changed. Not that I want to change her value points. I don't desire to change them. I just want her to understand mine. If she loves me as much as she says she does, and I love her as much as I say I do, then our value points will have to meet. There's an old song by Paula Abdul, Opposites Attract. They will have to meet. They will have to work together, because we love each other so much that we will make them work together. We will. We'll do it. Even if it doesn't work, we'll make it work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And I love it. I mean, essentially, you're there's a different sense of certain sense of commitment that I'm hearing. I'm hearing commitment. I'm hearing, and it's unsaid, but the duty part of it, of the marriage of man and wife, because it's your duty to allow that to happen. We're in an interesting time, man, and definitely an interesting place. So I think it's important that man, that we have this type of conversation, because that's what it's going to take, man. Because I tell people all the time, I get sick of myself. So and sometimes I'm like, man, Mike, you tripping today. So now when you have to be interdependent with someone else, and you have the strength to do that and the willingness to do that, then something beautiful always happens. And I love to hear that you're not, keeping her growth within bounds, because who knows where it leads you all, because her growth is your growth and your growth is her growth. And so when you get that, when you put those two things together, then we're not talking about 1 + 1 = 2. We're talking about exponential growth. We're talking about 1 + 1 = 100. You know what I mean? And that's the type of relationship that we, all of us should strive for. I would imagine that we're not going to say that it's easy by any strength of the imagination, but with a lot, communication and love and honor and duty and just following the vows that were given, it'll end up being fruitful. So, man, I love that. I love it. And I love to hear it.
Yeah, man. I think that I'd like to say this, and I know that we are coming up on time and everything, but it's like, that was not something that I knew how to do. I didn't know how to do this 20 years ago, y'all. I didn't know how to do it. I had to become a different person. But one thing I did do was I stuck in there. So going back to that this is the quote that Mike just put out there in the chat world. So this is one thing that I decided to do when the chair rolled in front of me. I decided to get out and talk with and get the chair and put it inside my vehicle. And I decided to deal with whatever the repercussions would come with it along the way. That was my choice.
Yeah.
Going back to that original analogy, we all have this choice. My wife and I have gone through some heavy ups and downs. I mean, heavy, y'all. Heavy ups and downs. A lot of stuff which we have not shared with most people, and many things that we have shared with some people, but it took time and it took years before we could share it, because even when because there was still pain that lingered on, that was in the closet, even though we said, hey, listen, I forgive you, and I forgive you, kiss and make up and all that type of stuff. But then there was still some times when that pain lingered on for years. And I hope I'm talking to somebody out there today, but the thing that she showed me first was that she would never leave me, that she would pursue her love for me. And I've taught people this, and I've told them this for years now, that my wife showed me the true definition of love, and I mean as like a person, a person. She showed that to me, and I'm not talking about no mother's love, because this isn't the same thing. My wife could have divorced me. She could have left me.
Mm-hmm.
My mother can never divorce me. She will always be mom. She birthed me. That's it. So it's not a comparison, but she chose to be with me. And she chose to be with me in some extremely difficult times, despite anybody's thoughts. She chose that. She chose to bear the pain, not to look the other way, but to just whatever she did with it. And I'd love to hear from her what she did with all the pain that I have caused her in her lifetime. But I don't want to salute myself, but let me tell y'all, I chose to do that also. And there was times that I actually felt like I don't want to do this anymore. And I remembered my wife's love for me, and it inspired me. And I said, well, not today. Sometimes it was just that simple. It was just simple as saying, not today. You know what? I can't stand her today, but you know what? I'm not going to go anywhere today. Just not today. And this is what I meant by, when it comes down to these relationships, how sometimes we don't have the tools.
Yeah.
But we're developing them. And if you stay in the ring long enough, there won't be any more fight. The bell's going to ring. And at that point in time, both can become victors. And there's no need to throw another punch, because it's over with, And I definitely, I'm grateful that I took that time. Let me tell you this, Mike. I was talking with a good buddy of mine. His name is Mike also. We were at the gym, and man, we used to have these long conversations about relationships. And we talked about this. We said, how did the people of old times stay in their relationships for so long?
Right.
Because as they get older, sometimes you see these 50-year-old couples, they've been in their relationship for 50 years and they're getting a divorce. You're like, what happened?
Right.
Why now? Why after 50 years? What happened? And it's like that we were always unhappy, baby. We just decided now is the day for us to separate. It's like, oh, okay. And it's like, how do you keep the relationship together? It's a commitment beyond your own self. You just decide. What's that?
I said, has to be.
Yeah. There has to be something inside of you. And here's the greatest thing. If one of your values is that you love yourself and that you are committed to love that individual, that love right there does have the power to keep you in the commitment until you gain the tools to be able to deal with the individual. You got to work on self, and that's really it, because you can't work on somebody else. They got to work on themselves.
Yep.
And in the days of their drought, when they don't have power to work on themselves, you got to be so committed that you will love them through their worst days.
Yeah.
You'll take the hits.
Yeah. My God. And do your due diligence, guys. If y'all think about getting into a relationship, do not rely on your own understanding. Go talk to a marriage counselor. Go see Joel. Bring it. I'm telling you, I don't think dating works. This new age dating. I think you definitely need to have I was listening to a rabbi the other day, and he was talking about in the Jewish faith, you know, you all go out on dates, and it's a very quick engagement. You know what I mean? Like they're not doing 6 months or a year of, you know, quote unquote dating. Like you getting married, you know, within 6 months kind of deal. But you're going out on dates with these chaperones, and you all do, you know, you all have the conversation, and the chaperone is there, and then you tell the chaperone, hey, I think this might be the person for me, and the other person says, hey, I think this might be the person for me, and the chaperone could veto and be like, nah, I don't think you two are for each other, or that other person could say, I don't think this person's for me. Either way, the chaperone is the one who comes back and decides whether or not there's another date. I think there's a lot of due diligence. I think we're getting caught up in a lot of different things, and you need to have some fresh eyes, someone who's been through it, who understands what it actually takes to in a relationship. Those days when I don't know when it's going to work or whatever, you need someone who's been through that and to be able to at least express it to you. But I found that there's a lot of this, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Well, you got to make you happy. Because if you can't make you happy, nobody can make you happy. What's happening is there's a lot of toxic parts that are speaking to each other, and that's what y'all are in that feeling and that caught upness. But I can go on and on. That's another show. I appreciate this show. In the midst of it, we will go on. In the midst of it, we go on. We do appreciate you, man. Kenyatta, appreciate you for the comments and the engagements. Every time you post something, it gives us more to think about, more points to widen our scope as to how we're relaying this message, because you know it gets across. It gets across, brother. Any last words?
I think you said it, man. Enjoyed the show, man. Good seeing you, and good hearing from Kenyatta, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We appreciate you all, of course. Community Beacon, like, subscribe, share. Other than that, we will see you next week. Welcome home. Love you.